Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Obviously, we're here to talk about the Coach Goff not being the head men's baseball coach anymore here at the University of Alabama. These are not easy for the coaches, their families, the program. Not something we take lightly at all. I'd like to thank Coach Goff and his staff for their contributions over the past year and wish them well in their future endeavors. A lot of success Coach Goff has had over the years as a baseball coach, and I know he'll have success in the future as well. We felt this was the best decision going forward for our baseball program, and that's why we made the decision. You look at these situations when it comes to coaches, and you decide what is the best long-term solution for the program, not based off of a season or anything like that. It's based off of the long-term health of the program. As we move forward and look ahead, we're looking for the best possible baseball coach that we can get. With college experience, that could be a head coach, that could be an assistant coach. But we want somebody that's been in college baseball and understands the dynamics of that. There have been several assistant coaches that I just want to give you examples of who have gone on to be head coaches at high-level programs for their first job. Andy over at Mississippi State, Kevin O'Sullivan, who went from Clemson to Florida to be the head coach the first time, Brian O'Connor, Notre Dame to Virginia, Dan McConnell, Ole Miss to Louisville. Don't read too much into that, just trying to give you some examples. We are absolutely looking at head coaches, but we'll also consider assistant coaches. We want to find the best possible college baseball coach that we can for the University of Alabama. A couple things going forward as well. I think it's really important as a program, as a university, as a fan base, whoever our next coach is, that we're patient through the process. We have to have stability in our coaching staffs going forward. That's very important. This was very unique, but this is important going forward that we have that in mind in what we do. Coaches are going to make decisions that sometimes aren't going to be popular to everybody, that aren't going to be popular to the team, that aren't going to be popular to the fan bases, to the families, and that's okay. There will be some of that involved, and we need to be patient through those processes as well. We have a lot of desirable resources here at the University of Alabama, including the incredible stadium, our budget. We fund our baseball program at a very high level, and the Alabama brand that I believe gives all of our teams an opportunity to recruit nationally, for us to have the best opportunity for success. People want to be at Alabama. This is a great, special place, and we're all fortunate in our athletics department to be a part of that. We're going to have Terry Rooney from our staff. He is going to serve as the interim head coach during this time to provide leadership to our team, and he'll be in that role until we name a new replacement. Last thing I'd like to say is, as we go through this search, and no offense to anybody I'm in front of right here, y'all like to speculate and talk about who the candidates are going to be. I'm going to tell the people that we talk to that if, according to sources that they have interviewed, according to sources they're now the leading candidate or anything like that, I'm just going to assume they don't want the job. It's important that we manage this process in an effective manner to give us the best opportunity to hire the best baseball coach that we can at the University of Alabama, and that will be our focus going forward. And so I ask the fans as they go through this too, take what you read out there with a grain of salt, and don't assume that what you see is necessarily 100% accurate. There's often more to the story and what takes place. No disrespect again to anybody I'm in front of right now. You all have tough jobs to do, and we respect that very much. So I wanted to throw that in as well. I think that helps us manage our process and what we do. We may not be 100% successful at it, but we're going to give it our best shot. Questions?
Greg, as far as the financial obligations, financial liabilities of this, has that been set, for Coach Goff and for any assistants that have a contract that's been terminated? Has all that been worked out yet?
Pretty much, Cecil. It's a good question. We are dismissing Coach Goff without cause, and that is effective immediately. And so the base salary in his contract, which we will be responsible for the remaining 4 years, There is mitigation in there if he takes another baseball job. The assistants were on year-to-year contracts. We're going to do some things just to try to help them out over these next couple months. But I think that's important for them so they can try to have some protection through these. Obviously, something that's very challenging as you go through these situations.
How far does this set the program back anytime you have a new coach? We're going to lose a recruiting class. How detrimental is this to the program?
Well, I think that's part of why we're keeping Coach Rooney involved in the process right now, to try to stabilize the recruiting process or this class as much as we possibly can. Long term, the goal is whoever the next coach is, hopefully to be here for many, many years and give us stability in what we do. I think that's a very important facet for us to have long-term success as a baseball program. And that will be the goal in our hiring process, to find somebody that gives us a great opportunity to do that.
When ultimately did you arrive at the decision, and how did you arrive at the decision?
Ultimately, last night, went to bed to sleep on it a little bit. As you can imagine, didn't get a lot of shut-eye. And Coach Goff and I met this morning, and I informed him of the news.
You say without cause, but what was your reasoning for deciding that this was the time to do it? Obviously, there's been some complaints from alumni and fans and stuff that you've heard. You've said you've heard some of that. What was your reasoning behind this?
Alex, really, you just look at the overall evaluation of the program. Again, going back to what is the right thing for the long-term health of the program. We felt the right thing for the long-term health of the program is where we are today. And that's a constant evaluation. And that's what we were focused on throughout.
Greg, was there a quote-unquote final straw with all the meetings with the players and things? Was that kind of the nail in the coffin, A? And part B, that question, what characteristics are you looking for in a coach specifically?
Yeah, I don't want to get into specific meetings or incidents of any kind, but we continue to evaluate just as we did throughout the season, as we ended the season, and then we went into the last couple days and felt this was the right decision for the long-term health of the program. As far as what we're looking for a really good college baseball coach that can coach the game of baseball, that can recruit, has a very solid recruiting plan, that understands academics, that understands compliance, that understands community engagement, involvement, alumni involvement. That's really important. I want to say that to our alums out there. We want you engaged and involved with the program. And so a head coach that has a plan across the board for those things, that's what we'll be looking for.
Going back to talking about stability for the program, will Coach Rooney be considered as one of the candidates for the job full-time? Or?
Well, I don't want to get into any specific candidates, but I can tell you there weren't any discussions about that with him when we talked about him being the interim head coach. We're really appreciative of the fact of his willingness to do this, and he should be commended for it.
You've been in other parts of the country. You certainly know the challenges that coaching here at Alabama and some of the things a coach might be up against. Does that make this less attractive a job? I mean, in your experience?
No, the reality is every single place you go has its strengths and its challenges. There are a lot of strengths at the University of Alabama, and we're going to be very focused on what those strengths are to give us the best opportunity to succeed at the highest levels in college baseball. We compete at the highest level in many of our sports, and that our goal will to be the case across the board. And I think with the passion of our fan base, with the incredible resources we have here as a program, especially our beautiful stadium, that has a leg up. I mean, I think I've been to all the spring training homes in Arizona. I've been to a lot of minor league ballparks. Our stadium does not take a back seat to anybody, and that's important in recruiting. And are there challenges you have? Absolutely, but we need to be as aggressive as we can with the resources we have to work with to give us a chance to win. And this is a great place to be, and I know there'll be a lot of coaches that'll be interested in that.
You brought up compliance. Were there any rule violations or anything that took place from Greg Goff or the coaching staff that expedited this?
There were no rules violations.
Hey, Greg, again, I assume you're going to draw on your experience at Mississippi State. What will you draw on from that as they've had continued excellence over years, coach to coach to coach, that you saw that you'll try to implement?
Well, I think you look at a lot of the fundamentals of what they do. Obviously, Coach Polk was a legend there. And then when we hired Coach Cohen, and now I know with Andy being there, he's doing a good job. I know they got a win today in the tournament. You look at that foundation. There's some fundamentals when it comes to tackling and blocking that you got to have. You got to recruit very strongly. When you have opportunities to be out there recruiting, you have to do that. You have to show a strong commitment to academics. You have to keep it in between the lines from a compliance standpoint, and understand that, manage that. You have to be able to coach the game at the highest levels and develop the young men in your program to give them the best opportunity to succeed here while at Alabama, and then put them in the best possible position that they can pursue their dreams from a professional baseball standpoint beyond Alabama as well. Understanding not everybody will do that, but that you have that as a program, as your reputation, that you can go out and do that and then compete for championships and what takes place.
Greg, either before you came to the decision or today, did you meet with the players on the current team, and what was their response to your decision?
We met with the team members who were in town today at 1 p.m. and they unfortunately have done this a few times, and it's usually a similar response. It's there's looks of concerns, and I hope they would be concerned. You're talking again about people's careers and their families and everything that goes into that. And we got a bunch of good young men on our team, and I told them we'll go out and get them the best baseball coach that we can.
Greg, because this is your first hire here at Alabama, are there some common characteristics of coaches you've hired in the past?
I think one of the things in the coaches that I've hired that you've seen have success, they're usually very smart, and they are extremely driven, but they also have a lot of self-awareness to them. They can relate to 18 to 22-year-old young men and young women too. There's something that I also find with the really successful coaches, they're usually really good listeners. And I've been in a few interviews with coaches, and they're interrupting you constantly. And look, Regina's here, and I'll just tell you a little secret here. Regina comes in at the end to meet the wife, the spouse, if there is one, and gives me the 2 cents there. And I don't think we've hired a coach that is constantly interrupting you during the interview process. And so, but it's a lot of those factors. And there's good information out there. We're going to look at academic records. Obviously, performance on the field is important. We're going to look at it from a compliance standpoint, do all the background checks that we're supposed to do. And there's analytics out there that can be very valuable as you go through it. At the end of the day, so much of it's just been on instinct and what we feel will be the right fit. And, you don't always bat 1,000, but the goal is to bat 1,000.
Will there be any sort of minimum qualifications that you're looking for, like, say, SEC experience? And do you have any idea of how fast you want this process to go?
Well, it's a good question, Chris. We obviously, there are a lot of teams that are playing right now. And we, just like if we had a assistant coach or, hopefully head coaches come here and they want to stay here and finish their career, that we're going to need to be respectful of the seasons they're involved with right now. And so I'm not going to put any time frames on this other than say it could take a while depending on what takes place with that. That's why it was really important that we put Coach Rooney in place to manage the team currently today and then to help us with from a recruiting standpoint. And so, baseball season is going to go a while longer now, so I would not be concerned if we, a week from now we haven't announced who the new head coaches. So it could be a very wide range of times.
Just for the record, the players that are here currently on scholarship have the option, their choice, whether they want to come back on scholarship?
The young men on our baseball team who have a scholarship, those scholarships will be honored.
Because you've presided over successful baseball programs at other universities, do you think you're uniquely positioned to make this hire? And how excited are you about the opportunity to kind of have your fingerprint on the program in that sense.
As far as the last part, I'm not very excited at all, because obviously anytime you go through these are very challenging situations for everybody involved, and if you don't have great empathy for the coaches and their families, then boy, that would be challenging. As far as what you do, and when you go through these things, and that's part of what I said at the end of my statement was, don't believe everything that's out there. And so in order to get somebody to come to Alabama, they got to want to come to Alabama. And we may find the right fit at the right time that's ready to come here. We're going to do our best to do that. But sometimes you may think, well, ex-coach, boy, they need to be the head coach at Alabama or whatever school it is, but it's not going to happen for a lot of different reasons. It may be because their family doesn't want to move. It may be because there's something of an issue that we know about that maybe isn't public, whatever that may be, as we're doing our research. So what I promise is that we're going to go find the very best baseball coach that fits at Alabama, that wants to be at Alabama, and is a good long-term solution for us to give us the best opportunity to succeed at the highest levels.
Greg, to kind of re-ask Chris's question, as far as experience that you'd want to hire, you mentioned Andy Canzero a bunch. He came from Major League Scouting to get into college coaching before. He was never a head coach.
Right.
Would you be willing to look at someone either without Power 5 experience or someone in the Major League realm right now that's a scout?
I want somebody with strong college experience, not necessarily on what – I don't want to define that, because I think I want to keep it broad as a statement. But I think it's important. I've talked to just, let's say, sports where people have come from the professional ranks, and when you talk about the game itself and the coaching itself, they're usually really good because they coach at the highest levels in the professional ranks. But then when you start talking about academics, compliance, from a community engagement standpoint, recruiting, big part, sometimes they're going to struggle with that because they don't have that experience. And so I think it's important to have in the college environment, not necessarily has to be your entire staff, but at least a strong collegiate influence on what you do. I think that's really important. All right, thanks everybody.